like to call the December 2012 meeting of the Wheaton Park Board of Commissioners to order. Mike, please take the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaft.
Here.
Commissioner Schobel.
Here.
Commissioner Mee.
Here.
Commissioner Feewick.
Here.
Commissioner Lukey-Hines.
Here.
President Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Morrell is sick.
Mike, presentation.
Yes. Handing these down. We'll go up here. While President Kelly passes down the report, I wanted to finish up one of this year's action items, which was completing a good government audit with the Citizens Advocacy Center as a way of introduction. Previously this year, the board requested we coordinate with Ms. Terry Pestica, Executive Director of the Citizens Advocacy Center, to assess the district's level of openness and transparency in doing public business. We met with Ms. Pestica and she reviewed a prototype audit. Staff completed the audit. The results of the audit are in front of you and can be made available to the public. I will send this report to the Citizens Advocacy Center for their review and further recommendation. For the purpose of today's summary, I will identify the categories in which the district possibly needs improvement and some action. For those viewers at home, the categories that the district audited itself in include access, which includes FOIA requests and response, website access, access to public officials, public meetings, media, closed meetings. Under election and officials, our funding, election information, objections to petitions for election, elected officials, appointed officials, ethics policies, and items related therein. As you can see, it's in the vicinity of 60 individual items that were included in the Good Government Audit prototype provided by the Citizens Advocacy Center. And as you can see, we've identified 6 items that are of note, in which we think that we need to do some follow-up if the board concurs in how we conduct our business. 4 of these items are related to information not being available on our website. 1 item is related to email retention, and 1 item is related to the regularity in which we review closed session minutes. As you can see on page 2, the highlighted items, the primary lack, if you will, that our website has in relationship to public information is what Ms. Pestica coined as a public document website reading room, which the concept is that individuals who are interested in FOIA-ing public information, their first stop should be our website, which says, hey, if you were ever thinking about FOIA-ing a public document related to the Wheaton Park District, go here first. And there it would have all of these items that we list here. If the board concurs, you can see the items we do have there currently: budget information, minutes, agendas, and so forth. We do not currently have all of our signed contracts, monthly accounts payable, election results included there. So the completion of a reading room related to typically requested public documents would assist us in meeting that category. The item related to email retention is the only item that we've identified, and obviously Ms. Pestica and the board may provide further input, is the only item that if we were to correct or comply with best practices would cost a little bit of money, and that would be related to email retention. We would have to spend some money, I don't know at this point in time how much, in providing some sort of IT fix or additional piece of software that would allow us to retain and store email messages related to public business between the board and the community and the staff and the community. So what I recommended here is, if we can hear from the board in the future, I would provide an opportunity, if you want, to know how much that would cost. Obviously, there'd be related staff time, but we're budgeting for that anyway. That's really the only material item, if you were to call it material, that would cost additional money besides staff time to address. The only other issue besides what's present on our website and that email retention item is related to the regularity in which we review closed session minutes, and that's rectifiable through staff action. And we will be reviewing, I believe, believe we're due in January, and we will be on a regular schedule to the degree we meet in closed session on reviewing for possible release. I don't know if there's any questions today, having just received it and hearing this verbally. This is a not urgent but very important item related to public access and transparency and how the district conducts its business. I thank you for your attention, and I would welcome any questions either now or in the future.
Bill?
Is Ms. Pastica coming at some point to give us her findings, or is this just what we're doing internally? I'm just trying to understand what we're doing.
As I stated, this is our internal report based on her prototype audit document. Subsequent to this meeting, we will forward the information to Ms. Pastica, and we will meet with her, and we will ask her if she would be so kind as to provide her own written recommendations and opinions regarding how it is that we conduct business on top of staff's internal report.
That's really what I'm looking for.
Sure.
I'm looking for the Citizen Advocacy Center to give us a report. Also, when you talk about email retention, what are you talking about that we're not doing? We just need to understand this.
Currently, if someone were to FOIA an email from me to Andy Bendy and we had both deleted it, it's not recoverable.
We need to have a policy about that. It has nothing to do with money, it has to do with a policy. I mean, it may have to do with money, but we don't have the ability, we don't have the right to delete emails that are public business. So I guess I'm kind of concerned about that may be happening, because that's not something we have the right to do, is destroy public documents, because those are public documents.
Understood. That's why we bring it to your attention today.
Mike, are you sure that they're not recoverable?
I am.
So what you are talking about then is we would have to purchase a different program, is that right? Or some more storage?
I don't know the specifics of it, not being an IT person, but we employ several, so we'll get the answer.
I guess in the meantime, I just wanted to make it very clear that staff should not be deleting emails that are work-related. That's something that should be a policy. I think you should send an email to staff immediately saying that they are not allowed to delete emails that are work-related.
Yes, sir.
That should not be something they're allowed to do, and at least in the short term, we've hopefully solved some of that issue.
It's certainly not something we're encouraging people to do, but we'll close the gap.
I, for one, think that, other than election results, because I really don't care about those, because those are somewhere else, they're more of a central agency, and has those up already. The election commission already has those up.
Correct.
The rest of them, I, for one, think that we should be putting on our website.
Kim?
Back to email retention, which is part of a larger document retention policy, that I'm assuming we don't have a document retention policy in general, do we?
Yeah, you may recall, Kim, and I know it's something that you focus on because President Kelly placed you on Policy Review Committee with Commissioner Morrow. When we passed the cell phone policy, legal counsel had advised us, and we passed it on to the board, that lacking a formal records retention policy was something we needed to shore up. And in 2013, that will be the first policy that I bring to you and Mr. Morrow for review prior to bringing to the rest of the board.
Okay, because that will encompass not only email, but it is what goes on phones,
Well,
and,
I mean, we have a legal obligation not to destroy documents. I mean, there is a policy. You have to go through an outside agency at the state, at Springfield, before they even allow you to destroy documents. So this is something that we need to shore up immediately, not just, I didn't realize we didn't have this.
Well, Mike, I'm assuming that we do go through the state for our records destruction, do we not?
Everything that we would be statutorily authorized to do so, excepting emails.
I understand.
so Phil, where do we find that information?
The policy of,
The state, the statute?
We're doing it now, is what you're saying, Mike.
well, it doesn't sound like we have a policy, whether, I mean, we may be doing it, Gary, but that doesn't mean, not to pick on Mary Beth, but Mary Beth or someone in her department may say, oh, we don't need this, we throw it away. There's no written policy that says they have to do that. And I'm not blaming, anybody who's doing that. I just threw out a name, Mary Beth, just for record.
Mary Beth did.
But, I mean, that's something that, there's a whole procedure that has to go through, and it's a state, I mean, we can easily find it. I mean,
Yeah.
Steve Adams has to deal with it.
Tressler identified this weakness when we were going through that last policy, and Obviously, we're not going to wait to have a formal policy authorized by the board to work diligently to comply with our legal obligation as soon as possible. But it's something we need to formalize. So the answer is yes to both.
So the other thing, just talking a little further about this, the reading room, building on what Phil said, and this gets back into emailing these documents to us that didn't happen this month. And I don't know if we actually have decided we aren't going to email any of these documents to any commissioners, but these are the exact same things that should be in this reading room. And so taking this work that's done monthly for us and putting it online should not be that challenging for us.
I agree. It's just it's staff time, as I said. The issue of when board packets get placed in the online reading room in relationship to when the Board of Commissioners get them is something I think warrants a dialogue among the board as far as timing is concerned. I don't disagree with you that that public information within the board packet, ideally at some point in time, should be put on the web. There is information that goes within a board packet, obviously, that's not, at this point in time, more than deliberative and therefore shouldn't be on the web. But again, I think that, and that's why President Kelly appointed a policy review subcommittee so we can look at these things. There's a timing issue related to what you're talking about and perhaps when the rest of the board receives information or reads information. We have to notice that and Phil can help me here, but the notice of a public meeting has specific boundaries authorized to us or dictated to us by the state. Those laws don't dictate that the content of a board packet be put online 48 hours before a meeting. Now, that's why it's a discussion that needs to happen that's why it's a discussion that I think needs to happen among the board members. And we can specifically ask Ms. Pastika at the Citizens Advocacy Center for some guidance in that regard.
So we make this available to the press, and as soon as this document is created, someone can send you an email or come in and request it that day. So
No,
Not all.
no.
what parts cannot be?
If there's a letter from the attorney, that's attorney-client privilege, it doesn't necessarily need to be turned over. If there is other information that is exempt under FOIA,
Correct.
those things do not have to be turned over. So I think a determination is gonna have to make, and I agree that at some point before the meeting, it should be turned up, it should be on the website or wherever, so people can have access to it before we get here. I think that's a great idea. But it's not quite as easy as saying, hey, the moment we get our packet, everything goes out. It's not quite that simple.
If I may,
So that's what we need to work on.
our current practice, Phil and Kim, is the press gets a complete packet minus the things Phil mentioned the morning of the meeting. And if we were to follow that practice with the general public, we would post it on our website, if that's the board's wish, the morning of the meeting, absent anything is still under deliberation or of a legal nature.
I think there should be some consistency there. So certainly, we're not gonna make it available to the public before we get it. So, I think you're talking about normally we're getting a packet on a Saturday and, we have a meeting on the following Wednesday. So if we give it to the media on the morning of, I don't see a problem with making it available on the website the morning of, unless you can expedite the process.
Mr. Chairman, just one last thing. I think you should put, and I think this should be something, all this should go to the subcommittee. I think these notes should go to the subcommittee and they should meet on this. And one other policy I think they should look at is us approving executive session minutes every January and July. Just put it on the agenda automatically. If the minutes aren't done, if you're a month or two behind or 3 months behind, it doesn't mean you shouldn't still review. And that's kind of where we've gotten in trouble. Why we haven't, because the minutes haven't been done. So you should still be reviewing those minutes that are done every 6 months. So, that would be
Yeah,
my suggestion.
I intend to just push this to the policy committee, and they can work with staff and bring something back to the board, January, February, whenever you're ready.
I would ask that Terry show up,
The
Terry
January.
has to show up sometime in the next couple of months and give her analysis of this stuff as well.
Will do. Thank you for your attention.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks. Consent agenda. Community input. Is anybody here? Anybody signed up, Mike?
No.
Nobody here? Okay. Consent agenda, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? I call the roll.
Commissioner Vanderschaff,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Mean.
Yes.
Commissioner Freewager.
Yes.
Commissioner Lukey-Hans,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Unfinished business. The first item was the cooling tower rehab bids.
Move the table.
No, we're not taking one, we're rejecting bids.
All right.
So let me bring the board up to speed with what's going on. We brought in the mechanical engineering company that did the design for the Hubble project and asked them, is refurbishing this tower a good idea? And what's gonna be our useful life after we spend the $50,000? And what's the cost of a new cooling tower? They use the word chiller in the memo you got, but they're talking about the cooling tower. Okay, so I think the low bid was $47,000, right in that range, to rehab the tower, and we should get 10 to 15 years out of it. What was missing was a major component of the tower is the fan and the motor. And that's original, and the consultant said that that would probably have to be replaced within the next 5 years. So our $47,000 cost would go up because we would have to replace the fan and motor, which is the only mechanical part of the cooling tower. The rest of it is just the shell and the drainage media. We obtained a price on a new cooling tower exactly the same as the one, just from a vendor without really competitive bidding, just asking what's one worth. You can buy a new tower for about $39,000. Our engineers estimated that the cost to have the new tower installed would be somewhere around $100,000. I've gotten preliminary numbers from a couple heating guys that say that's high, that we could probably get the tower replaced in the $80,000 range. The subcommittee's recommendation is that we reject the bids, and then we go out for bid for a new cooling tower to replace the one, so we'll get double the life for our money. And we'll take an alternate bid to refurbish this, to refurbish the tower. So we still can go back to that. We think the tower will make it through one more season if we don't have time to get it done by May. But, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get this out for bid and get it done by May. We're just not sure of the timing. So if we don't replace it this spring, we replace it next fall, still in this budget.
Will the refurbishing also include a new fan?
If we're gonna refurbish it, yes. We would add that to the scope, so we would find out what the cost is. So we would have completely refurbished out. But we don't recommend going ahead with the job as designed right now. Terry?
Just a question for you, John. The staff report says that it's felt that a new cooling tower would exceed the life expectancy of a refurbished tower. By how much time?
Well, the new tower, if we buy a new tower and we buy a galvanized steel tower, which is like the one we have now, we'll probably get the same time we got at it now, 20 to 25 years. For another 10 grand, you can upgrade to a stainless steel shell on the tower and you probably get 30 years out of it. So that's another option.
Well, depending on the grade of stainless steel,
What?
depending on the grade of stainless steel.
Exactly. But an identical tower to the one we have with the same specs that we have now, we buy it for 39 grand. And then the question is just how long to swap it out. And it will give us a 20 to 25 year life. We know that based on the one we have right now. So the refurbishing the tower for 50 grand is good for 10 to 15 years. But we're gonna have to replace the motor on that in addition to the 47,000 and the fan, which wasn't part of the refurbishment. So we want to just step back and take a look at all the options and making sure we're getting, we want to compare apples to apples. I want to be able to tell you that you can refurbish it, you're going to get 15 years and it's going to cost you X number of dollars per year. You buy it new, it's going to cost you so much per year and you'll be able to make the decision. We don't have all that information right now to make that decision, in my opinion. So I'd like to see us reject.
You're looking for a move,
I'd like to
motion
see us
reject.
reject these bids, redesign for new with an option to refurbish, and go out for bid again.
And make a motion to reject the bid.
Second. Any other discussion?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item, project update and possible action on change orders at the Hempstead, or at the Central Athletic Center. I passed out a recap sheet of the contractor's change proposals to us to date with his pricing on it. In the beginning of the job, we approved a change order for $30,000 to have the job completed by January 1st. It's now obvious that that's not possible. We're not gonna receive the new air handling units till mid-January. So it looks like the earliest we're gonna be ready to open is February 1st. Therefore, that $30,000 change order is void. So we're adding a line item into change order 3 to take that $30,000 back. So where we're at right now is we have about $120,000 in approved changes. The numbers are slightly less than that. You'll see the 2 items I highlighted in yellow are in the approved column, so that reduces it a little bit. But we're in for about $120,000 right now in extras. There's other stuff out there that we're gonna have to do. Right now, the board had only given the committee authorization to approve, was it up to, it was items up to 20,000 in a single item and a aggregate of 100, was it?
Correct.
On 100. If we're gonna finish this job by February, we're gonna have to authorize the contractor to go ahead with more stuff. I think that we're gonna need to spend a couple $100,000 total. So I'd like to see the board authorize the committee to spend another 100, so up to 200. Still keeping the $20,000 line item, and there's only one item on here that's more than 20,000, and that's the replacing the 5 light poles on the east side of the building. Now, the last time I presented that to you, I told you that we authorized them to go ahead and bring the new power lines out to the light poles, and they were researching just changing the ballast on the lights, converting them to the new voltage. Our new building is 208 volt, and the old building that was torn down was 480 volt. So the existing exterior lights won't run off of our electric. It's impossible to convert those lights. So we need to buy new lights. So we're back to the $25,000 proposal. That work has not been done yet. The only work that's proceeded on that is they've started to run the line to get it outside. Having those parking lot lights lit will be a condition for occupancy. And going with the new poles here is the only way we're gonna get there. Yes, Kim?
So are you looking for a total of 200,000, which would be an incremental 80? Given
I think we ought to go another 100 on top of the 220, on top of the 120 to date. And, you know, we'll keep bringing them to you guys so you see what's going on. I don't see any other big ones other than it's been brought to our attention by the city that we may have to replace the sewer. And we're researching whether that's gonna be necessary. Should we televise the sewer and see what shape it's in? You're gonna get update minutes from yesterday's Buildings and Grounds Committee where there was a little report on that. That'll be in your board packet. They weren't ready for tonight. That's the only other real big item that I know that's out there. The rest of the stuff is on there. And probably the best thing, if you have any questions on any of these, you should probably just pick up the phone and call Phil or I, and we'd be happy to walk anybody through these items and explain them to you. I know it's hard to just get a recap. The other thing, if you want to attend one of the Monday morning construction meetings, you just need to let Mike know a day ahead of time, so we'll make sure there's not more than 2 commissioners there, and then you're more than welcome to attend the meeting. But we meet every Monday morning at 8 o'clock at the building. So I just don't want 3 commissioners there without knowing in advance, but if 3 commissioners want to come, we'll notice up the meeting. That's all.
I attended those meetings in the past, they're really exciting.
I want to say, if anybody would like to take our place,
Mine too.
they can step right in.
Okay, I move to allow the committee to approve total change orders not to exceed $220,000 with no single change order over $20,000 other than the power to pole lights and light replacement, which we approve in the amount of $25,000, or approximately $26,000.
Second.
Discussion? We could probably just do a roll. You want to do roll call?
Commissioner Lucian,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
Yes.
Commissioner Mean,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandershaft,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Okay, new business. Recommendation for action, approval to submit an application for a Naperville Community Development Block Grant for the Sensory Garden Playground Initiative.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Kim?
I just have a general question. I don't remember voting on these types of things before, so why are these coming to us now? Because
We had
granted,
asked staff that when they were applying, all right, this particular grant, the Sensory Garden, we want to be completely funded by outside sources. We don't have all the money right now, but we need to apply for these grants in order to get the money. But if we apply for this grant, and within the time limit that we have to spend the money, we don't raise the rest of the money, we're gonna run the risk of having to turn this grant down, like we did the Kelly Park grant. So we're bringing this to the board, so the board knows what we're getting into when we apply for this grant. But we're not gonna be able to raise the money if we don't apply for these grants.
We also asked staff some time ago to bring grant apps to us before they apply. I mean, what impact it was going to create for us.
Because we got in the position before where staff kind of got ahead of us.
okay.
Which didn't occur again. The only thing I would say is I would vote for this subject to the fact that we will, staff has to understand, and I think this board is in a position that we have not agreed to spend money on this. We may have the front cost, but we're not going to spend money. And unless we have raised the money for the entire phase prior to us having to utilize it on the grant, that it's going to be, I think we're going to have to reject the grant or turn back the grant and not do the work, because I'm not willing to do this. Right now, we have, this phase one is going to cost about $380,000. We got about 130 in the firm. If we were able to get this for another 100, I believe, we're still 160 short. And unless we have raised that money, the staff needs to be aware, and this is, that we're not willing to spend that other 160 unless the money's been raised, or unless it comes back to this board that, hey, we're 20 grand short, or something like that, and we're willing to spend it. But we're not going out front of this with our money until we're cleared. So while you're allowed to apply for this grant, you're not allowed to start any work based on it without us completely understanding that we have the money or us making that determination later. So everybody needs to understand, we may decide, hey, we got the grant, but we don't have the rest of the money, so we're not going to proceed. I don't want anybody to have that misconception.
Anybody else? Terry?
Yeah, since it relates to the sensory garden, there was a note in one of the staff reports that looks like there was a Lions Club member who was possibly committing to $150,000. Is that outside of what we just talked about? And is that a single donor, or is that the Lions Club itself?
It's pardon me, Sarah, if I may, it's one of our Lions Club members is involved with a Tasca-based not-for-profit that issues sizable grants to kid-based projects.
Good. Good luck on that.
So we're very confident that we're going to be successful in that regard, but it's not appropriate to say we have it until we get confirmation.
Good.
Phil?
One other thing, whoever does these reports on this issue, and I know Mike and Jen and I talked about this for a long time yesterday, and I've had a lot of conversations about it. I'm not in love, and I don't know if it's Sarah or whatever, but I'm not in love with this concept of development amount pending. To me, that's not, pending to me means we've agreed to it, they've agreed to it, we just don't have the cash. Pending, I just don't like the word. I think it's applied for, or it's, something else, but pending kind of implies a little further than we are. So that's just for the future, if you would.
Anybody else? Okay, we can do that by voice vote. All in favor of applying for the grant?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Next item, approval to submit an application for an Illinois Green Infrastructure Grant for permeable paver parking lot at Cosley's. motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? Kim?
So, were we already planning to do this and now we're applying for grants? Or are we only applying for the grants, only going to do this because we're applying for the grants?
If I may, the parking lot is top of the list on our pavement replacement schedule, of which the board has chosen to set aside $500,000 a year to get caught up on our asphalt replacement. So this grant is not moving the Cosley lot to the top of the list. The Cosley lot's at the top of the list, and we're going for the grant to get it done with permeable pavers as we did the other parking lot.
So there's a pretty wide range here, but stating between 40 and 190 of the total cost at 200,000. So what are we thinking this actually could end up to be? 'Cause that's a really wide range and significant differences in as far as a percentage of what it would cover.
You know, Ken, can you ask that question again? Because I think I kind of have a lot of the information that I've been asking for the last 2 days, but I didn't understand the question.
So we're looking at $200,000 cost, and we have a range of grant estimates between 40 and 190. That's a huge range. If we end up at 40, you know, we might be behind the 8 ball. We're spending more money than we could have planned on this, whereas if we're at 190, then that's really great, and we're out 10,000. So where do we really think we're going to end up with the dollar amounts that we can apply toward this project?
I don't think, I don't know that we know. I think the 40 is probably a lot more realistic than the other money, given the grant, I read in the report. But I think, given the priorities, and I'm not sure, I've seen a couple of reports, one that said Seven Gables was more important to us than Cosley. I don't know which is, or what was higher priority. But either way, it's on, both of these kind of have outlived their usefulness. So this would be something we'd be looking to do in the next 24 months with or without a grant.
Okay.
I think it's probably the best way to answer your question. I know that it's not exact, but I think that's where we're at.
Okay.
The thinking on these is we're gonna spend $500,000 a year on asphalt replacement. If we can get a grant, we can either spend more, you know, get more pavement done in 1 year. As we budgeted, I think we're $500,000 a year for our annual asphalt replacement program to fix all our parking lots.
But we're not doing this with asphalt, though.
This would be part of that program. This
Oh.
this
We
would
call
not,
it asphalt replacement, but
this is,
Parking
it's
lot.
the same fund.
Okay.
And we still have to make a decision if we don't get the grants as to whether we
Do we
go
wanna do
asphalt.
asphalt
or
or-
That's what I was gonna ask.
that hasn't,
Okay.
they haven't come back to us with, you know, is that's a project we wanna see go out, and do we wanna bid it both ways? We haven't even discussed that
So we're
project.
looking just to approve our
Right now, it's
application.
just
for
to
the grant.
apply for a grant.
And the
put it
upside
towards
is,
parking.
the upside is, the water quality improvement program is one that is annual. That's actually how we paid for a large part of, not a large part, but a significant amount at Northside, I think it was well over $5,000. So even if this doesn't happen this year, it could very well happen in the future. And we've done pretty well on stormwater.
Okay. That could be a voice vote. All in favor of applying for the grant?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next item, recommended to submit an application for a DuPage clean water quality development. Oh, they were just,
Two grants, same topic.
oh, okay. Go
Second.
ahead. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Next item, Arrowhead turf chemical bids. Need a motion?
Move to approve the bid recommendation made by staff in the report provided in the packet.
Second?
I think you ought to at least mention the companies that you're awarding it to. There's 5 of them. There's 5.
Wait. Is it all of them?
If I may, we have Arthur Clausen of
There's the
Wheeling,
companies, so they're getting,
ETSI of Frankfurt, Chicagoland Turf of Downers Grove, Harold's LLC of Lombard, and Pro Grove Illinois of Mendota.
I'll amend my motion accordingly.
Second.
Anybody have any questions? Kim?
Okay, there's a lot going on here. And so I need someone to explain this, the concept that we're going generic, we're not going generic, we're testing, and this statement here that we have not always chosen the least expensive chemical when an alternative was offered.
Before Justin jumps in, just so you know, the subcommittee, Mark and I did meet with staff about this. So this is how it came to you now. Have at it.
All right, which part do you want first?
Can you go over the spreadsheet and explain how you selected, because in some of these there are two options.
Okay. Well, first of all, when purchasing all these chemicals, it benefits us if we stick with one vendor. We get more money back in a rebate. The more we spend with one company, the more we get back. So in this case, the Chicagoland is obviously one of our best picks. Not only are they the same price and something cheaper in areas, but that's the way we wanted to go.
So do these prices reflect the
No.
rebate?
Well, I should say, no, that is not included in the rebate. We will get a check at the end of the year. Does that answer your question?
So let's take turf screen. We've got an alternate at 360 and then the 480. Can you explain those two? They're both highlighted in yellow. Can you explain what that means and what these, how we're bidding on
I
this?
used the turf screen this year and it proved to work very well. However, I want the ability to try the Arthur Cleason brand because it is cheaper and I've heard good things about it, but I don't want to go all in on that chemical because I don't know.
So what he's done, he's gonna buy both.
I'd like the ability to try it.
I guess my question is, when you, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think I have a question that I think would help maybe a little bit, and that is, let's use turf screen for an example. Just because you enter into a contract with them, you don't automatically purchase a certain amount from them. You order and it comes in on at that price. You got that price for the whole year. You call them up, send a purchase order, whatever. I want 2X of 2 widgets of this or whatever,
Right.
X pounds of this, and that they deliver that at that point.
Absolutely.
Do we have a problem with not accepting the lowest bids?
I just looked through this, I don't see anywhere where we didn't accept the lowest bid on the spreadsheet. Unless you can show me I'm missing it, but.
Well, and I guess that gets into this concept
We're
of
getting
the
wrong for
alternative.
this.
Yeah, is that?
Well, we wrote out a spec of what we wanted, and that's what the companies were supposed to bid on. Then
Okay.
some of them gave us a proposed
We
alternate.
actually asked for generic.
We asked for generic alternates, so some gave us the alternates. Justin's saying he's researched the alternates, and some he already knows what they are and he doesn't want to use them, that's why they weren't his base bid. And in others, he's willing to try them, so that's why he's highlighted both.
Okay.
The issue is to allow them flexibility to try to save us money in the long run.
By using alternates, but some of these alternate bids, he knows what they are from past experience and he doesn't want them. But we asked the vendors to propose equals because we wanted to see if there was stuff out there that would save us money.
Yeah, when we interviewed superintendents, and Jason obviously was one of them, Justin one of them, one of the things that came through from superintendents who had a lot of experience, like Mark would agree, is that other courses, a lot of private courses, a lot of them, were using generics much more than we were. So we asked staff, and I think Terry and Mark followed through on this, to say, hey, you really need to start looking at generics on a regular basis here, more than we are. Because they're talking savings $30,000, $35,000. I think that's what he's doing. I guess what I would just like Justin to really do before you go, before you order the higher one, is talk to the other superintendents in the area, because, I've had some conversations with them, and I think most of them are going 80–90% generic now.
Sure.
Black Sheep's almost all generic. When we went through interviews, we found out that Aurora is pretty much all generic. And those are places that are obviously high-end clubs. So unless you find a problem, I guess would like you to focus on the generics, at least that's me personally, and try, unless you find there is a problem, because I'm hearing from the industry, you know more than I do, but I'm hearing that, you know, many of these generics, no one can tell the difference.
Sure.
It's just a different brand, but it's the same material.
Mark?
Well, speaking to that issue, and actually I did talk to the guy at Butler on the same thing, Bruce Patterson. He said, they're cautious about what they do. They want to see it in a side-by-side comparison, kind of the name brand against the generic, and see if they can make a noticeable difference. And that's kind of what we communicated to Justin in our meeting. Once you know it's a proven product, why wouldn't you use it? The thing you don't want is that you find out it isn't, and you've ruined a green, or you ruined a fairway in the process.
Yeah, but I think there are many, this is a tight industry, Justin can say, there's not a golf course superintendent, a high-end course that doesn't know each other on a first-name basis and have conversations weekly. So I guess my point is, to the extent we can make those phone calls and say, hey, is there a difference in turf screen? Ahead of time.
And
let's go there.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're just not jumping all in at once.
And I'm
We're
okay
doing a
with
little
that.
bit.
I guess the only thing I saw in your memo, I just really wanted you to focus on is, you said, and I don't know if it was your memo or whose it was, Jeff, I guess it was yours, Justin. It said, we still need to get reliable information. The extent we can get reliable information from others in the industry about the effectiveness. I guess I would ask that you use the next couple of months to try and do that to the extent you can.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Mike, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Vandershaft,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Me.
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger, Commissioner Lukian,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Item number 5, recommendation for approval of expenses relating to commissioners attending the Illinois Park and Recreation Conference in Chicago. First off, are there, Mike, other commissioners who have, the memo didn't say who wanted to attend, are there?
Yeah, Morrill and Me, I identified on the memo. I didn't know if any additional wanted to.
So we need a motion.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Kim?
Okay, so I have a couple things. One, there was just recently another conference that both of these commissioners attended.
No, I didn't attend that. I made notice to the president and to Mike.
Terry, he did not go.
Okay.
We approved him going, but he didn't go.
Okay, so Commissioner Morrill had attended that one, and it was so recent that I am wondering the purpose of attending this one as well. The other issue is this lodging at 2 nights. This is in Chicago. This is 25 miles away. It's 35 minutes if you're heading from here down to the loop. I don't see that we need to pay for lodging for an event that's occurring in Chicago.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion. Any other discussion? All right, Mike, that's Mike. Take the roll, please.
Commissioner Lukian,
Stay.
Commissioner Fiewiger.
Yes.
Commissioner Me.
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandershaft,
No.
I'm here.
Commissioner President Kelly, sorry.
Yes.
I was writing. Motion carries.
Okay. Next item. Item number 6, the 2013 board meeting schedule.
Move to approve.
Where is it?
That's right after the,
Not mine.
there you go.
Okay,
Second.
who made the motion? Terry and Steve was second.
Mark Schobel.
Mark, sorry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Item number 7, ordinance number 2012-15. Need a motion.
Move to approve ordinance making combined annual budget and appropriation of funds for the Wheaton Park District for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2013, and ending December 31st, 2013.
Second.
Second?
Any discussion? By call roll.
Commissioner Lukian,
Yes.
Commissioner Mead,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderschaff,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Next item, ordinance number 2012-16. We need a motion.
Move to approve ordinance levying and assessing the taxes of the Wheaton Park District, DuPage County, Illinois for the tax year 2012.
Second.
Any discussion? Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Lukian,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger, Commissioner Mead,
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderschaff,
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Next item, ordinance number 2012-17.
Move to approve an ordinance abating the tax hereto levied for the tax for the year 2012, pay the principal of and interest on 9 million taxable general obligation park bonds, alternate revenue source, series 2010 of the Wheaton Park District, DuPage County, Illinois.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Phil?
I'd like an explanation from staff as to why we're doing this.
The $9 million bond issue for primarily was taken out to fund Northside Park development as well as other general infrastructure upkeep issues and needs. We're funded, were alternate revenue bonds, which were, the alternate revenue source was identified as our general obligation proceeds from our annual debt service extension base. So in other words, the taxes are already levied for the annual rollover that cover the cost of this additional bond. So in essence, we leveraged what we had to generate additional money against our debt service extension base. If we did not abate this tax, the constituency essentially would be taxed twice for the same bond issue.
Any other questions? I call the roll.
Commissioner Mead?
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderschaff?
Yes.
Commissioner Fiewiger?
Yes.
Commissioner Lukian?
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Reports from staff. Mike?
Only a request, Commissioner Lukian had suggested a workshop concerning bond proceeds, and it's timely because of the last action we just took. Perhaps I need some direction on whether or not you want to have a special workshop, you want to handle it prior to the January regular meeting, but I think that such a workshop meeting should be held sooner rather than later, based on the request of, I believe it was Commissioner Lukian and Commissioner Vanderschaff. So I'd just like some direction there, unless you'd like me to make some suggestions, and Donna and I can put that out to you.
We had some discussion about that. Some people asked that Mike make a presentation on the bonds and the tax levy and how we're using the funds. And so we said we could do a separate workshop on that. I think we need to push it off till after the first of the year. But if you want to think about having a second meeting in January or February, on the middle Wednesday, we certainly could do that in the middle of winter, and that might help the staff and everybody get on the same page for when we start to go into the next budget process. So do you have a preference, January or February? I think it's a good idea. We haven't had one where we've had that kind of discussion in a while.
If I may, Mr. President, it would not only be myself providing, I would certainly be an understudy in this case, but we would have bond counsel from Chapman and Cutler, as well as our financial advisor from Spear Financial in attendance, as well as whatever I can provide.
So what I think I'd like to do is ask you to come up with what you're going to do in this workshop, present it to the finance committee at their next meeting, and they can determine which month we want to throw it in. I don't really care, but I'd like to see us do something. But I'd like to make sure that the agenda is reviewed by the finance committee, so we're doing everything that we talked about.
That's the direction I needed.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, and we'll just go around, if anybody has questions on the reports. Kim, we'll start down here.
Okay. So I was looking through the cost leasing part of this, and our sponsorship for the pumpkin sale has been decreasing. Can someone talk to why that's been happening?
I think it was primarily because of a main sponsor that we had for the Pumpkin Fest, moved to the Festival of Lights this past year.
Okay,
So that was the cause for this, that decrease.
so will we see then a corresponding increase in the Festival of Lights, or is that going to be remaining static?
No, actually, we have seen an increase.
I had a few others.
Go ahead, Kim.
So under pool passes, and I don't know if this is just a,
Typo?
thank you. Is that a typo?
I don't know, that's my question too.
So it states we've sold 179, which is like 3 times more than we had sold last year as of November 30th. But yet revenue is only at 2,485, which is 1/3. So I'm wondering, the math isn't quite work out that.
Revenue today is at 2,864, with 475 passes sold as of today, with $20,864 in revenue. That's the numbers pulled today.
Okay,
It's a typo?
Must be.
Thanks, Dan.
okay, thank you. Then I saw where we've got a water leak at the museum. This is what we're working to address with the roof that's in budget? Is that, okay. And then the last thing from the staff meeting, this is probably not for staff, this is more for the board. Looking through Mary Beth's report here, and we had an election site at Tui Park. Did we have children in the facility at the time that we had voting going on?
No, we suspend classes.
Okay. Okay, that's what I just wanted to confirm on that one. Thank you. One last question, and Mike, this is gonna go to you, and that is around the government navigation group. Can you provide a report, because I don't think you know it off the top of your head, as to what benefits we've received from them this year?
Certainly.
Mark, do you have anything?
Nope.
Terry?
You know, we're at the end of the calendar year, I just want to recognize some of the staff efforts. Of course, we had an excellent golf season, very profitable for us, good job. The Parks Plus Fitness, Mike and staff, I mean, we've increased in all the revenue areas this year over last year. So, you know, that's kudos to Vanessa and her staff. The leadership program still seems to be thriving. A lot of good feedback on our rec programs, Mary Beth. They were all very solid this year. And we made some significant advances, you know, at the zoo, you know, with our new exhibits and in new aviary and so on and so forth. But I think that we've, you know, I think 2012 was a good, solid, profitable year. Appreciate it.
Steve, anything?
Yeah, just one thing, to Mary Beth, Brad, and Ryan, the Raft Park synthetic turf report, I thought it was great, it was well done, it provided a great deal of information, and I just appreciate everything you did, so, thank you.
And let's move forward.
That way, Mary Beth.
You got my ear at the holiday
Phil,
party.
do you have anything else?
Get that lick in.
No, it's a great, that was what I was gonna say, it's a great report. This is, I know I was looking for the one before, so thank you very, very much, and this is well done. I think the next thing we need to figure out though is what we're planning for doing, what we're doing at home, the old home. I still can't call it Central Athletic Center, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure it ever should be named that.
But that's a different issue.
So, but thank you for the report.
The other thing, I have a question, I'm sorry, on this, on the marketing report, I think that's Margie from you. I don't know if the board, do we really, does the board want to see these names as who's sponsoring? I don't really, I prefer not to know who the sponsors are for Catholic. I don't really want to have that information. I like the numbers, but as far as who the people are, I don't want it, the hint that it's somehow influencing who I vote for. I agree. So, just for future, I don't need to see that. I don't think we do. You know, if there's a problem, we always see it.
See, I don't have a problem with it, but
I don't want the implication that we voted for a contract or someone because they gave money to has.
Well, I hear you, but I don't think it's ever influenced my vote.
It's never influenced mine either, but the point is, I don't want that even, it
Shouldn't be an issue.
shouldn't be something we should even be thinking
Mark?
I did want to say, I hope, wish everybody happy holidays to the staff and the commissioners, and hope that it's a safe holiday as well, so, in the community. So.
of. And Margie, I'm not complaining that you did it, I'm just trying to give you feedback. Thank you.
And the only thing I have is, Mary Beth, this is tomorrow night, the baseball boards. So the baseball softball board is having their annual Christmas party. If you guys can stop by, I know they appreciate it. The only real, they put in a ton of work running these programs, as does the football and all our volunteer boards. And it's nice if commissioners can stop by and tell them they're doing a good job. So
You start at
that's tomorrow
7:30?
night. 7:30 to 9 up there. And I don't have anything else. Everybody have a very nice Christmas, good holidays, and we'll see you in January.
Move to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?